All praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High. Peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother Elisha Israel of the Household of Faith. I count it truly a blessing each and every time I can come before you and preach the word of God. Never ever do I count it as a light thing to do so. I'm coming on a little early today. The title of today's lesson is The Real Royal Wedding. The Real Royal Wedding. You know, there's a lot of hoopla about what's going on amongst some people who call themselves royalty. And they are royalty in Britain, and mainly because it's a woman who many people consider a woman of color. She has a black mother, white father, and people are looking past what that means politically, what that means for the Commonwealth. Not taking into account this is a former colonizer, a former enslaver. And this is a big thing because we want acceptance from everybody. But what we really need to understand as a people, I'm talking about the so-called Negro, here and abroad, even in Britain, because we were taking their slaves as well, is that and made that country rich, is that we were married to our God. And I want to touch upon that today because that's the real marriage that everybody needs to be worried about. And so I want to start off in Ezekiel, the 16th chapter, because here the whole story really is told and how the Lord, when I say the Lord, stand, the God, when we talk about the Old Testament, the God that Israel was dealing with as a people is none other than the Messiah, okay, who came in the flesh. That's why he's called Emmanuel, God in the flesh. He is the one that Moses saw. He is the one that Aaron, in the Bible, and 70 of the elders, along with Moses and Aaron, they saw. This is the one Abraham saw. Okay. That he was the one that was following him. Paul tells you that rock that followed them was Christ. Okay. But this is Ezekiel 16. It says, again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations. And say, thus saith the Lord God unto Jerusalem, thy birth and thy nativity is the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite and thy mother an Hittite. Why does he say that? Because that's the land in which Israel took. Okay. And they were given that land through God. It says, and as for thy nativity in the day that thou was born, meaning when your nationhood, thy neighbor was not, neither was thou washed in water to supple thee. Thou was not salted at all, nor swallowed at all. None I pity thee to do any of these unto thee, to have compassion upon thee, but thou wast cast out in the open field to the loathing of thy person in the day that thou was born. So this nation came out of a very tumultuous situation, even Egyptian bondage. And so these people cried out to God, and what did God do? He rescued these people. It says, when I passed by thee, I saw thee polluted in thine own blood. Just like they were like a baby. We were like a baby that's just been born and left to die. Terrible situation. Right? So he said, when I passed by thee and saw thee polluted in thine own blood, I said to thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. Yea, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. Now, he's blessing this one, and then something starts to happen. Let's keep reading. It says in verse 7, I have caused thee to multiply as the blood of the field, and thou hast increased and waxen great, and thou art come to excellent ornaments. Thy breast are fashioned, and thine hair is grown as thou wast naked and bare. So now you've grown. He likens it to this woman coming into her beauty. This is Israel, the nation. She's coming into her beauty. But it's all because of God. But nevertheless, it says, now when I passed by thee and looked upon thee, behold, that time was the time of love. Right? So that's the time of love. Love between who? This is a bond between God and his people. It says, and I spread my skirt, it's church. Then it said, I spread my skirt over thee and cover thy nakedness. Yea, I swear unto thee and entered into a covenant with thee, saith the Lord God, and thou becamest mine, like a man would go into a covenant with his wife. So it is that God went into a covenant with his bride, Israel. Okay, and let's look at that. This is, let's hold our finger here. Let's go to Exodus, the 19th chapter, because here the proposal is made. In the Western world, you got these people that will get on one knee and ask some woman to be their wife, right? People never think about the customs and where they come from, but nevertheless, that's a proposal. Well, here a proposal is made. This is Exodus, the 19th chapter and verse 5. How you gonna get on one knee and beg somebody to marry you when you supposed to be taken care of? That don't make no sense. But anyway, Exodus 19 and verse 5. Or verse 4. Let's pick it up there. Because he talked about how he saw you were in your own blood and you were born, you were in a terrible situation. Right? And then, but he spread a skirt over his bride. Listen, it said, ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and I bear you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself. Right? So he showed his work. He manifested himself unto this people. Then verse 5 says, now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant. He went into a covenant with them. So now the proposal is made. He said, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And I will set my face against them, that they shall go out from one. It says in verse 6, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. I was holding my finger in Ezekiel. Forgive me for that. And read the wrong verse. I meant to read Exodus 19 and 6. It says, ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto them. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. So now the proposal is made, right? You see it in these in a Jared commercial. Some man get on one knee, he make a proposal, and she get the crying, right? So it says, and she says yes, and he picks her up, and then every kiss begins with J. But verse 8, it said, and all the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. So the proposal was made because he said he went into a covenant. Now let's see where this covenant is made. It was proposed in Exodus 19, and it is made in Exodus 24. This is Exodus 24, verse 6. It says, and Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar, and he took the book of the covenant. This is an agreement. And read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord has said will we do and be obedient. That's again like in the Western world, when you get before one of these passes, and they both say, I do. This is what Israel did. They said, I do. We will do. And it says, and be obedient. Will you love, honor, and obey? Right? That's what they asked the wife. This is what Israel said they would do. Verse 8. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it upon the people and said, behold, the blood of the covenant, which the Lord had made with you concerning all these words. So Israel agreed to go into this covenant. Right? But something happened, brothers and sisters. Something happened. It says here, and we're going to pick it up in Exodus 31, because immediately this woman went astray. This wife went astray. So now this is Exodus, the 32nd chapter. I said 31. Exodus 32, and is verse 1. Exodus 32 and verse 1. It says that when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mountain. Now Moses is up in the mount communing with God, and the people come to Aaron. Aaron was left there. And then it says the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, up, make us gods, which shall go up before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we were not what has become of him. So Aaron went about making them false gods, and they started worship. This, brothers and sisters, is adultery. This is adultery because you're going against your God. Now let's see what God did for this woman. This is going back to Exodus 16. He did all these things. In verse 10, it says, or verse 9, I washed thee with water. Yea, I thoroughly washed away thy blood from thee and anointed thee with oil. I clothed thee also with broidered work and shod thee with badger skin. And I girded thee about with fine linen and covered thee with silk. I decked thee also with ornaments. I put bracelets upon thy hands and a chain upon on thy neck. I put a jewel on thy forehead, that's in the nose. It says, and earrings in thy ears, and a beautiful crown upon thee, on thine head. So now he gave this woman, but she immediately went out and started committing adultery by this husband from a tumultuous situation. That'd be like if a man found a woman who was on drugs, uneducated or miseducated, impoverished, just the clothes on her back smelling. She hadn't taken a shower in 2 days. Hair falling out because she's sick. She's all thin and frail because she's sick. And this man sends her to be educated. He buys her all new clothes. She was homeless, but he gives her a mansion to live in, right? Cleans her up, does everything for her. And then what he come home to find? She dealing with some other man. This is what Israel did to God, right? So it says, he said he did all these things. He says in verse 14, well, I'll pick it up verse 13. He said, thus wast thou decked with gold and silver, and thy raiment was of fine linen and silk embroidered work, and thou didst eat fine flour and honey and oil. He had provided all these things. So you sitting up there with the new refrigerator, got the TV in it, and tell you when your milk is low, send you a text. You got everything you would need. Got a brand new car. Everything you would need. You were catching the bus when you had bus fare. But it said, and thou renowned went forth among the heathen for thy beauty. So now your hair starts growing. You don't even need weave. Now your hair starts growing because you're not sick, you're not frail. You took you to the doctor, got you situated, and now you starting to look halfway decent. It said, for it says, and thou renowned went forth among the heathen for thy beauty, for it was perfect through my comeliness. So now you're walking out, and people say, hey, you remember Sharice? Remember how she looking good now? You mean the one that was strung out on drugs? Man, I'm telling you, she driving the Benz now. She looking good now. Yeah, she living in the hills now. Wait a minute. So now you walking through the shop, man, people looking like, man. Renown said, I renown went forth among the heathen for thy beauty. It says, for it was perfect through my comeliness, but it was perfect through God's comeliness. So Israel as a nation started to prosper as a nation and was desired. But wait a minute, why? It's because of what God did for this people. Same thing with that woman. Why are people looking now? Her beauty is there because of that man. So it says, which I have put upon thee, said the Lord God. And then it says something. But thou didst trust in thine own beauty. See, you forgot that it was all God. Then it says, and playedest the harlot because of thy renown, and pouredest out thy fornication on everyone that passed by. Here's it was. So now this woman, then she thinking she looking good. Yeah, I'm looking good. She done forgot all that the man had done. Next thing you know, she laying with everybody. That's not her husband. So it is with Israel. Let's go to Ezekiel, the 23rd chapter. Because and the Lord was wroth with Israel as a people. He was going to kill the whole nation except for Moses. He was going to preserve him through him because he made a promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He made a promise to Abraham. It was confirmed with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or Isaac and Jacob, excuse me, that. And so that what his seed would become. So he couldn't wipe them out because God cannot lie. But he would have killed everybody and then kept that seed with Moses because Moses was of Abraham. But Moses interceded on behalf of the people. This is Ezekiel, the 23rd chapter. But that wasn't the only thing, because this adultery continued. This is Ezekiel, the 23rd chapter, in verse 1. Ezekiel 23 and verse 1. It said, the word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother, and they committed whoredoms in Egypt. They can commit whoredoms in their youth. There were their breasts pressed, and they bruised the teeth, and there they bruised the teats of their virginity. And the names of them were Aholah, the elder, and Aholibah, her sister. They were mine, and they bare sons and daughters. Thus were their names. Samaria is Aholah, and Jerusalem Aholibah. So now he's talking about how the kingdom, when he gives them the two names, Israel is a nation, but the kingdom was split. Samaria refers to the northern kingdom, and Jerusalem refers to the southern kingdom. That retained, when you look at the records, it retained the name Judah. It would consisted of Judah and Benjamin, and Levi sprinkled in there. And then you had the 10 tribes in the north. Okay, they retained the name Israel. So it says, Aholah played the harlot when she was mine. Okay. Now that's Samaria, Israel, or the one at the northern kingdom. And it says, and she doted on her lovers, on the Assyrians, her neighbors. Now the Assyrians, they started dealing with their false gods and ended up going into captivity by who? You guessed it, the Assyrians. This is 721, 722 BC. And they stayed in captivity. So it says, verse 7, thus she committed her whoredoms with them, with all them that were chosen men of Assyria, and with all on whom she doted, and with all their idols she defiled herself. She became defiled. She became defiled dealing with this false worship, with these false gods. So what happened? Verse 9. Wherefore I have delivered her into the hand of her lovers. Now the same ones that you're dealing with, they gods, ask them gods to deliver you from this persecution, from this slavery. It says, wherefore I have delivered her into the hand of her lovers, into the hand of the Assyrians upon whom she doted. This is verse 11. And they went into captivity. It was a brutal captivity. Verse 11, and her sister Aholibah saw this. Now Judah saw this. You think she took the example, said, I'm not going to do this? Let's find out. She was more corrupt in her inordinate love than she. And in her whoredoms more than her sister in her whoredoms. Okay, so now she was engaged in all this harlotry and this adultery. Verse 17, and the Babylonians came to her in the bed of love. This is talking about among spiritually speaking brothers and sisters. They're dealing again in idolatry. And they defiled her with their whoredom, and she was polluted with them, and her mind was alienated from them. So she discovered her whoredom to discover her nakedness. Then my mind was alienated from her. See, one thing about God, brothers and sisters, when you turn your back on God through your actions, he will turn his back on you. Now what happened to Judah? Now she's going to suffer the consequences for committing adultery. Therefore, O Aholibah, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will raise up thy lovers against thee, from whom thy mind is alienated. And I will bring them against thee on every side. And that happened in 586 BC. She went into captivity. But let's go to Song of Solomon, because this husband, brothers and sisters, has continually tried to commune with his wife. But his wife continually rejects him for gods that are no gods. This is Song of Solomon, chapter 5. We're going to pick it up at verse 1. It says, I am come into my garden, my sister, my spouse. I have gathered my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I've drunk my wine with my milk. Eat, O friends. Now, people think that this is talking about Solomon and some love. No, this is spiritually speaking, brothers and sisters. This is verse 2. It says, I sleep, my heart waketh. It is the voice of my beloved that knocketh, saying. So now the bride is responding to the bridegroom. It said, oh, so what basically this is what the bridegroom is saying, rather. It says, open to me, my sister, and my love, my dove, my undefiled. For my head is filled with dew, and my locks with the drops of the night. See, Israel as a people, even until this day, has locked God out. Yeah, you've locked your husband out. He's trying to commune with you. He went into a covenant with you. But Israel has been totally disloyal to her husband. And then the bride gonna say to this. She said, I have put off my coat. How shall I put it on? I have washed my feet. How shall I defile them? My beloved put in his hand by the hole of the door. My bowels were moved for him. It said, I rose up to open to my beloved, and my hands dropped with myrrh. And my fingers were sweet smelling myrrh upon the handles of the lock. Now, wait a minute. Why was this myrrh on the lock? Hold your finger here. Let's go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 7. Proverbs, chapter 7. So we can find out why she had this, what was going on with this. Why your hands got the myrrh on? This is Proverbs 7, and we're going to pick it up at verse 10. Well, I'm going to pick it up at verse 9. It says, now it says here, it's talking about how you need, talking about my son, keep the commandments, you know, that'll keep you from doing that which is ungodly. It says in verse 9, in the twilight, in the evening, the black and the dark night, and behold, there met him a woman with the attire of an harlot and subtle of heart. So now there's one that meets him with the dress or the wardrobe of a prostitute and subtle of heart, right? So that just, first of all, that tells you right there that on the side note, what you wear tells who you are. Okay? So it says, she is loud and stubborn, her feet are bowed down the house. Then it says something, I'm going to skip down a little bit. She's trying to entice him. And listen to what happens. It says in verse 16, I have decked my bed with coverings of tapestry, with carved works, with fine linen of Egypt. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Then it says in verse 18, come, let us take our fill of love unto the morning. Let us soil ourselves with loves. She says, why? She said, come to bed with me. Says, why? For the good man is not at home. He is gone a long journey. So what is she saying? She's saying, come and commit adultery because the husband is not there. And see, this is physically that can take place, but spiritually, that's what Israel has done. And so, like that woman that had talking about the mercy, the perfume, the bed, getting ready to commit adultery, this is what Israel has done. So now the Lord on the outside knocking on the door, trying to commune. God has consistently been trying to commune with man in general and Israel in particular, and keeps getting rejected. It says in verse 5 of Song of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 5, I rose up to open to my beloved, and my hands dropped with myrrh. Then it says, and my fingers were sweet smelling myrrh upon the handles of the lock. I opened to my beloved. So now she finally opened up, but it says, but my beloved had withdrawn himself and was gone. My soul failed when he spake. I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. So now you done locked him out. Now he's going away. You done dealt with us. This is like a man, he come home and you done dealt with this man, right? And he didn't look past your transgression, and you continually doing it. This is what Israel did. Sleeping with any and everybody. You done left a man who did everything for you for somebody that ain't doing nothing for you, just to follow you, then going about their business. So it said, I opened to my beloved, but my beloved have withdrawn. This is verse 7. The watchmen that went about the city found me. They smote me. They wounded me. The keepers of the walls took away my veil from me. So now what happened? All that beauty starts to decline because it came from him in the first place. But you think you're going to keep everything that this man gave you? No. He's giving my stuff back. And not only that, get out. Israel got out the land. You got kicked out the house, and now you out there to fend for yourself, and them streets are rough, and they ain't got no mercy. These other nations had no mercy. So it says they found me, they smote me, they wounded me. The keepers of the walls took away my veil from me. So you thought you was cute? Man, take that stuff off. Here comes Sharice again. She on that stuff. It said, I charge you, daughters of Jerusalem, if ye find my beloved, that ye tell him that I am sick of love. That's one thing again about God. I tell you, you turn your back on God, he'll turn his back on you. But, brothers and sisters, it's for a time. It's for a time. Let's go to Isaiah the 50th chapter. It's for a time. It is for a time, but he tells you why it all took place. Because he put Israel away. He divorced or put away his bride. It says in verse 50, Isaiah 50:1, it says, thus saith the Lord, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement? Whom have I put away, or which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Right? He said, listen, behold, for your iniquities ye have sold yourselves, and for your transgressions is your mother put away. So it's because of Israel's transgressions that we're in the situation that we're in right now. But when it's all said and done, brothers and sisters, he's going to bring us back. Even though we've done all these things. See, we need to repent as a nation, acknowledge our sin, and turn back to him. So now this is Jeremiah, the 3rd chapter and verse 1. It says, they say if a man put away his wife, and she go from him and become another man's, shall he return unto her again? That's in the law. In the law, if you put away, first of all, divorce was, you basically sign a bill of divorcement. The man would. You don't find no woman divorcing no man in the Hebrew culture, in the Torah. Men would sign a bill of divorcement, put it in the woman's hand, and then put her away, right? Put her out of his house. And therefore, then she could go and be another man's wife. But she had to do what? She had to not only be put away, but also had to have that bill of divorcement. Because then you had situations, I want to be clear on this, you had situations that amongst men, they were putting women out, but wasn't writing them a bill of divorcement. And therefore, they out of quote unquote limbo, as they use in the Western term. You just floating out there after so long a time. They weren't writing no bill of divorcement. So now they were going to be with another man. Now you have just committed adultery. You've just committed adultery because you don't have a bill of divorcement. But nevertheless, and it said if it was a legitimate divorce and that woman went and was another man's wife, and let's say he did the same exact thing to her, she couldn't go back to the first man. Right? When you read about that in Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter. So it said verses 1 through 4. So it says, but that's played the harlot with many lovers, ye return again to me, said the Lord. So even though Israel has been with all kind of men, so to speak, committed all kind of adultery with all these other nations' gods, he says, but you're going to return unto me. He said, you're going to return unto me. Let's go to, let's skip down a little bit. Let's go to verse 6. He said, the Lord said also unto me in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel have done? She has gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there have played a harlot. I mean with everybody. And I said, after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me, but she returned not. Again, he has consistently tried to commune with this woman, and she refuses, even until this day. Getting killed in the streets, getting arrested for being black in a Starbucks. You just had one play. He parked in the wrong spot. Oh, you parked in this wrong spot? You must want to be tased. You got allegedly a woman got sexually assaulted by the police. You suffer everywhere you're at. In every kind of way, on your job, at work, in society, by the police, everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, for all these years, suffering. Why? Because you continue to worship falsely. But what do we need to do as a people? Turn back to God. Turn back to our husband. So it says, and I said after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me, but she returned not, and her treacherous sister Judah saw it. And I saw for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and did what? And given her a bill of divorce, right? Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played her harlot also. And it came to pass through the likeness of her whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. He likens this false worship to what? Again, adultery. But this is spiritual. Because you communing with all these false gods that don't know gods, and you're not communing with the one who you went into covenant with. See, it's different from all these other gods, all these other people that don't know God. They dealing with this false falsehood, yeah, they some heathen. That would simply mean they don't know God. But the true and living God manifested himself unto us, gave us everything we would need to be as a people, had us victorious over our enemies. And what do? We turned our backs on God. And now that's why we have been cast in the, because he said, if you don't keep his commandments, you will be cursed. Your children will be sold, your wives will be raped. You're going to be taken by the scruff of your neck and cast into slavery by way of slave ships. And then you will serve other gods of wood and stone. And that's what we have been doing. So it says in verse 10, and yet for all this her treacherous sister Judah have not returned unto me with her whole heart, but feignedly said, Lord, you didn't return for real. And the Lord said unto me, the backsliding Israel have justified herself more than the treacherous Judah. He said, go and proclaim these words toward the north and say, return thou backsliding Israel, saith the Lord, and I will not cause mine anger to fall upon you, for I am merciful, saith the Lord, and I will not keep anger forever. Thank him in his mercy that he doesn't keep anger forever. He says you need to do something, no. He said, only acknowledge thine iniquity. We have sinned. We have committed spiritual adultery. We have committed iniquity. It says that thou hast transgressed against the Lord thy God and hast scattered thy ways to the strangers under every green tree. And ye have not obeyed my voice, said the Lord. We need to acknowledge what we've done as a people against our God. And he said, turn, O backsliding children, said the Lord, for I am what? He said, for I am married unto you. And I will take you one of a city and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion. See, that's ultimately in the future what's going to take place. That's ultimately what's going to take place. He says, and I will give you pastors according to mine heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. See, that's what's going to happen, brothers and sisters. When it's all said and done, we're going to go back to the one who we are married to. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we're at the Household of Faith meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue, in Gary, Indiana, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're not in our area, if you are in our area, we invite you to come out and worship with us. If you are not in our area, you can catch us right here on the YouTube channel, Israel Teach, as well as at israelteach.org. We live stream there at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. Also, I want to encourage you, if you have been edified through the ministry, to contribute monetarily to the ministry. We don't get paid. The work goes for the preaching of the gospel, and we are truly thankful for those who have been donating. We are truly grateful, and we appreciate all that you do. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to thank you for your time.